Yo, how you guys doing? It's your boy Beastly back at it again with another episode 2 in fact of my How To Dynasty series. Huge special Omega shout out to all you guys who watched episode 1. That video got like 3,000 views. Absolutely appreciate you guys. I love reading the comments in that video of every single person I've helped out or taught something to, so appreciate you guys. Huge shout out to you guys. And let's get right into episode 2. This episode is going to mostly participate to or involve something around the lines of recruiting or how to recruit or something like that. So if you ever have issues and you need help or, learn a thing or two, smash like, appreciate you in advance. Let's get right into it. So what is the first thing I highly recommend that we have to talk about when it comes to recruiting? Pipelines. Pipelines. You're going to hear me say that word so many times in this video, and I do apologize, but it is kind of the most important part of the game. I personally don't like what EA Sports did, in my opinion. I think the Omega nerf they gave to the regular recruiting tree was unnecessary. And if you guys don't know what they did, more or less they took all of the really good elite or perks, in Recruiter and shoved them in Elite Recruiter. They took the stuff in Elite Recruiter that nobody really bought and dispersed them, around in different trees. So Recruiter in a whole got nerfed, and EA's explanation for why they nerfed fun out of a PvE game is because there was too many people plucking players out of pipelines they didn't deserve. So for example, I'm doing ECU for this example, for this video. It's like me going into California and ripping a 5-star from, USC. EA doesn't like that. I beg to differ. Most people play Dynasty by themselves and or with a small friend group. I don't think at the very top of their, problem board is stop players from getting players they want. Weird flex, but that's EA for you. So pipelines, why do they matter? When you build your coach, you get access to adding a plus tier 1 pipeline of anywhere you choose. This is huge because of various perks that you can buy and, stuff you can do. You can upgrade these pipelines. Pipelines are more or less a bonus, an influence or a recruiting bonus. So the higher pipeline you have, the easier it is for you to recruit a player. Easy example I can give you. You can slap 50 hours. Let's say you're, FIU. And there's a 4-star prospect you want from Ohio. You can slap 50 hours on them. You could have a decent hard sell. You could be doing everything right and be in the lead the entire time. Then come week 5, week 6, Ohio State slapped their nuts right on the table. And within 2 weeks, Ohio State basically filled the entire gap that you had because they have a 5-star pipeline and, perks and pipelines kind of matter. The pipeline you choose to give your coach for free is very important. It's honestly possibly even one of the most important things you can do aside from picking your playbook, all sorts of fun stuff. But hey, if you're a normal person like me, you go outside, touch grass, have a full-time job, have a family, you can't memorize every single pipeline from for every single school. Way too many pipelines, way too many schools. I wish EA Sports did in-game show you what a school's pipeline was, but don't worry, your boy Beastly has you absolutely cooking right now. So I am not sponsored, by the way, but collegefootball.gg will be linked in the description. They have many tools that is a absolute godsend for Dynasty, whether you're an OG, a Madden franchise / CFB franchise OG like me, or you're new and you don't want to learn and you want to get better, or if you want that very small edge in an online Dynasty, collegefootball.gg is a very, highly recommend. I highly rate them. So as you can see, I have Eastern Carolina or East Carolina pulled up. Here's my tier, my pipelines. Purple or pink is tier 5, blue is tier 4, gold is tier 3, silver is tier 2, and bronze is tier 1. The 3 best states in the game to recruit prospects: California, Texas, Florida. Why is that? Just like real life, those 3 states produce the most college players and NFL players. So duh, EA Sports more or less copied and pasted the analytics from real life to the game. Does that mean you will not randomly find a 5-star prospect from Hawaii? No, you can. There is still some random generation in the game, or a 5-star prospect from North Dakota. It's a thing. But generally speaking, I would say probably 65 to 75% of the good recruits you're going to find in this game, Florida, Texas, and or California. So generally speaking, those are the best pipelines you want. But if you want to break down the data even more between Florida, Texas, and California, here's how it goes. Texas is pretty much an equal hodgepodge of everything. North Texas, East Texas, 2 best pipelines in the game, specifically in that order: North Texas followed by East Texas. Then Southwest Texas fills in the last part of Texas. So if you could get all 3 of those, W. If not, at least settle for North or East Texas. You can see I already have East Texas. And when I built my coach, I gave myself a North Texas pipeline. But Beastly, why didn't you pick a pipeline you already had to give yourself. Well, even though the pipeline you choose when you build your coach, it does not add from your current base. So if I would have chose, hypothetically speaking, for argument's sake, East Texas, which a pipeline I already have, it wouldn't magically become a tier 2 pipeline. That's how it worked in CFB 25, but they changed it in CFB 26. This only gives you a tier 1 pipeline for an area that you don't already have. It doesn't +1 to one you already have, just so you know. So you need to really choose, think wisely, you know, which one you want to get. But aside from Texas, the second best state to get prospects for is Florida. Florida produces a insane amount of receivers and corners, and by no means am I saying that's all they produce. But if you want, on average, let's say you're a speed fiend, you love your receivers to have 95, 97, 99 speed, Florida is your best bet. Florida will produce an absurd amount of 3-star, 4-star, and 5-star receivers that are typically either really fast or just in general really good. And in real life, kind of mirrors that as well. And then California is a really good quarterback state. So if you want to kind of have a quarterback you where you're just mass producing a 99 overall every single year in a draft like I do in my dynasties, California is not a bad place, right? They just mass produce quarterbacks. Again, not everything is a 1-to-1 copy-paste real-life ratio, but EA Sports did do their best to try to reflect real life. And so the 3 best states you want your pipelines for is in order Texas, Florida, then Cal. I had basically, when I was doing my coach, I had a 50-50 coin flip between would I rather have 2 in Texas or 2 in Florida. And I was like, I'd rather have the 2 in Texas, which is why I did. So what I recommend, again, you don't have to if you don't want to, but what I recommend, if you're doing a rebuild, like for example, I'll show you live. Let's say you're doing a school you don't really know, like Rice, for example. No disrespect to the school Rice. I'm just pointing it out because they're a very small school. But as you can see, you can type in Rice, and then there you go. Rice, ironically enough, I kind of use them on purpose, is I think the best rebuild school in the game, because as you can see, Rice almost has every single pipeline in the game. They have tier 1s for all of California, both North and South California. They have tier 3s in North Texas and East Texas, the 2 best pipelines in the game. And with perks, you can make those tier 5s, which is scary. And they have South Florida and Central Florida. So more or less you have, I think, was that 7, 3, 6, 8. So you have 6 out of the 8 pipelines already that you need. And with your coach, you could just give yourself Southwest Texas or North Florida, and there you go. You would be an absolute menace running rampant through the 3 best states. So just a good rule of thumb. And again, you don't have to do what I'm telling you. You can pick your alma mater or pick whatever you want. It's just rule of thumb. Use the website, linked in description. Next tip. Okay, Beastly, so I know my pipelines, I know my stuff. What's next? Well, here's what you're going to be doing next. When you start your dynasty, if you're a 0-star to 3-star school, the first 2 years you should be basically exclusively doing is going after just 3 stars. Here's why. In this game, there's, I think, 134 or like 144. There's an absurd amount of schools in this game, both big and small. The really big schools like the Georgias, the Ohio States, the Texases, the Alabamas, they're going to go after 4- and 5-star prospects primarily. And then you have the really bad schools or the really small schools like Akron and FAU and, Missouri, Delaware, the 2 newest schools. You get the point. They're 1 to 0-star schools. They're going to be primarily going after 1- and 2-star prospects. So all that yapping aside, if you scrape off the top 20%, and you scrape off the bottom 20% or even 30%, it's a figurative number, you get the point. If you scrape off the bottom and the top of the college football atmosphere, you're left with about 60 or so schools that are going to actually fight you for 3 stars. And by and large, you shouldn't really have to be fighting for very many of those, 3 stars, because there's about 2,000 of them in every cycle. Yeah, you heard me correctly. There's about 2,000 of them every single cycle. So I can promise you, you can get a 35-person 3-star class with 0 effort. I have done it so many times on my streams and, recommendations. And here's how you can do that. For starters, you have to know what to look for. Here's how you do. So you click RB on Xbox or R1 on PlayStation. Don't know what the button is on PC, but you get this menu, your prospect list. You might be like, okay, Beastly, I'm just going to go holding right trigger or R2, slap down to the 3 stars. Bam, here's all the 3 stars in the game. And as you can see, the highest ranked one that I have currently filtered by is what? 1052. What if I told you That's not even close to scratching the surface for the number of 3 stars that are actually in the cycle. So how you do this, click the Y button for the advanced search or triangle on PlayStation, and you get this really cool menu. This menu is a vast majority of what I look at when I'm doing rebuilds. I try to skip this for my live streams or read chat or do something more entertaining, but by and large, this screen is kind of what I see the most of, because this screen gives you insane, filters. For example, quarterbacks, you can athlete, kicker, punter, defense, offense, you get the point. You can do position filters, including athletes, W. Next, let's say you're looking for a pure running quarterback, bam, bam, filter, filter, there you go. Or you're looking for a specific state. Let's say you're doing a state-only rebuild like I'm doing right now. I'm doing a Michigan-only rebuild with Western Michigan. It's a lot of fun. I also stream that, every so often. But either way, if you're doing a school where you're doing a state-only state challenge, you can filter by said state. You can filter by the star rating. You can filter even by the height, the weight, the handedness, right? If you're looking for a right-handed quarterback, because I know some people don't like lefties. I get you. It's very weird. But you can filter by handedness. The main 2 things you're going to be filtering by, though, is interest in your school and pipeline. These 2 things are the vast... Well, I would argue the 2 most important things. There you go. So for the first 2 years of your recruiting cycle, you're going to be going after what kind of 3 stars, Beastly? The best pipeline you got, which for me is a tier 5 pipeline with upgrades to North Carolina, and number 1 interest. Those are your tier A or, S rank, whatever, analogy you want to give. The cream de la creme, the players you want. The highest interest with your best pipeline. Slap on the board all of those 3 stars you can. The reason why is because the best pipeline you have gives you an influence bonus. So for example, if there's a 5, actually I think there is in this cycle, isn't there? Yeah, this is, I don't think I've ever seen this. I'm in year like 19 or 18 for my Carolina rebuild, but we got 2 5 stars from this state, which I don't think I've ever seen before. But yeah, I get a bonus to going after these prospects. So as you can see, I'm already number 1 on their board. But if Tennessee or Clemson tries to steal them, if Tennessee or Clemson, which are very notorious schools for fleecing you and stealing your prospects, if they try to fight me, if I have a 5 and Clemson only has a 2 or a 3 in this state, which I think Clemson has a 5, but you get the point. If you have a 5 and they have a less than 5, you actually get a bonus. So you both could have the same grades, the same number of hours dedicated, but you will be ahead of the other person because you have a 5 and they don't. And then plus, if you both have 5s and you're both equal in everything, then it comes down to initial interest, which is why you want highest interest plus highest pipeline. So we're already in the front of the pack. We get a little head start already. But depending on what school you have, what perks you buy, I'm sure your list is not going to be that long, especially opening out. So basically, what do we do then in that situation where we don't have best pipeline or highest pipeline plus highest interest? The next prospect you're looking for is no interest but best pipeline, as you can see for the example here, Quincy Laurie. I can't read. I have a 3rd grade reading level. Anyways, Quincy over here has no interest in us whatsoever, but he's in our pipeline, which means after approximately week 1, I will give him, or week 0, I give him a scholarship. In week 1, I will put any amount of hours on him, and by week 2, he will basically be mine. Or at least I'll be in the front of the pack because, again, just like in the first example, we have the best pipeline. So, example of Minnesota, for Quincy over here, if Minnesota tries to fight me, or App State tries to fight me, or Mississippi State tries to fight me for Quincy over here, I have a 5, they have a 0, a 3, and a 1. I'm going to win that. So I could put probably 10 to 15 hours on this kid with a 5-star pipeline and have that be equivalent to them doing 25 to 50 hours, which is kind of insane. But again, if you want to find this, all you got to do is go back to the prospect list, click Y or triangle, filter by 3 stars, filter by best pipeline, and there you go. Now mine's going to probably look funky because I'm, I have perks and stuff that might, there you go. Even a 5-star school, as you can see, I have hundreds of kids on my board that I can go after. I can assure you, you will have plenty of kids as well. So that's the first 2 more or less. You want tier 1 or tier A, the best players you can to recruit. Highest pipeline, highest interest. The second tier or the B caliber players are no interest, then pipeline. And I'm sure you could probably guess this, but the 3rd caliber of players you should go after is no pipeline or a very bad pipeline with highest interest. And here's why. I do not want to come off as arrogant. I'm just strictly someone who has an unhealthy amount of years playing EA Sports games, whether it's Dynasty mode, franchise mode. I know college football and Madden are technically two different games, but they're made by the same devs who do the same stupid things, and so I can kind of see patterns on the wall. Interest is valuable, yes. The people who tell you interest is important, they're not technically lying. However, there's a lot of TikToks, a lot of YouTube shorts, a lot of people who have no understanding at how interest works. There's a lot of people in the comments of my first video telling me magnetic personality is actually OP, and like I was trying to explain to these people, it only helps you get put on the board. That's it. What happens after that is your perks, it's your hours, it's your school grades, it's your pipeline. That's like 95% of the work. That one perk only helps you get your foot on the door, but doesn't help you do anything else. And you know, I'm so far in endgame, I could get this guy with my eyes closed, right? Even if I have no pipeline, I'm gonna get him. But early on, I really don't recommend you doing this, right? Only go after the people who are in your pipeline, whether they have interest or no interest. But if you got hours to burn, you have good grades, you have, you know, by pure luck, no one's chasing them, 1,000 examples I can give you. Go after it. Go ahead. You might win, right? You could steal a 5-star, you could steal a 4-star. Believe it or not, there's a ton of 5-stars, and I will show you in this video. There's a ton of 4-stars and 5-stars that no one goes after, and you will literally win them uncontested. It's people struggle to get top 5 recruiting classes, to get elite recruiter. It can be hard when you're a 0-star or a 1-star or a 2-star, but honestly, if you're a 3-star school or higher, you should be getting a top 5 class with very minimum effort. Like, you really gotta try to suck. Unless you're Delaware or Missouri State, those two schools have an asterisk because they don't have pipelines, so you're always at a disadvantage with those two schools, but that's 2 out of like 130 something schools, so I'm sure you have it. And last but not least, the lowest tier or the worst tier of athletes you should recruit, point blank period, is players that have neither pipeline or a good pipeline and no interest. These players are hard. And the reason why is because you will probably get locked out of them going from week 0 to week 1. It's just a simple fact. Now, I have perks and I have coordinators that can fix this, but you starting off will probably have between a level 0 and 10 coach, depending on, you know, what your sliders is for XP and, you know, how good you do year 1. But generally speaking, you're not going to have the resources to fight for these players you have neither a pipeline for nor interests, like a double negative. Again, if no one's pursuing them and no one's going after them, go after it. Free reign, free points, free recruits. But if you're trying to get a top 5 recruiting class or you're trying to do something, do not set yourself up to willingly fail, which is honestly the biggest thing I've noticed with a lot of content creators who do rebuilds. They tried, you know, to get a 5-star or 4-star really early on into their rebuild of a shit school. And I get it. It's good for engagement. It's good for YouTube clicks. It makes the video more entertaining. But the issue is people will watch that and then try to replicate it. And then they end up getting like 9 or 10 recruits the first year they do Dynasty. And half their team goes pro and the other half hits the portal. And just like that, you lost 20 to 30 players and you're only bringing in like 8 to 10 players. And then you're you know, at that point, you're already behind the 8 ball. So year 1 and year 2, just go after 3-stars, specifically the 3-stars that have highest interest and pipeline. And if they don't have your highest interest, choose the pipeline. But if there's some 4-stars and 5-stars no one's competing for, by all means, go after them. If you are ever curious on what to look for, what to find, let's say you're going like super highly, oddly specific, like you're looking for a quarterback who is right-handed, who is at least a 4-star, and let's just say he is, you know, between 6'3" and 6'6", filter, there you go. There's like 12 or 20 of them, I'm not going to sit here and count, that fit that criteria. And trust me, you can go super, you know, if you want a specific weight, a specific, you know, everything. I can assure you this specific board is very, very, very valuable. The next portion of this recruiting video is going to be deal breakers. Yes, the bane of mine and probably everybody else's existence when playing this game is goddamn deal breakers. Deal breakers will drive you insane because they honestly are very much of a hindrance, especially early game. Early to mid game, deal breakers are very hard. but then towards the end game, they kind of fall off because with perks and stuff, you can get around deal breakers. However, you need to pay close attention to these deal breakers. Good example is if you found let's say you found a athlete 3-star gem quarterback who's like 95 throw power, 88 speed. He's the most obvious elite generational talent ever. He's a 3-star gem. He's all yours. And you don't pay attention to his deal breaker. His deal breaker ends up being championship contender. You go 6-6 year one. That amazing, god tier prospect you thought you had ended up locking you out and then going to another school. That happens far too often. And I get it. You want the flashy, the shiny toy. I do. Trust me, I do get it. Even right now, this 5-star gem athlete power rusher who's insane. I'm locked out because of PT, one of the most annoying deal breakers to fiddle with. Now, there's ways you can get around these, like clearing your board if you have going after too many people of one position, stuff like that. Or if you have too many good players on your current roster. Reason why Ramon Parrish just locked me out, even though I was 4th on his board, was because I have 2 or 3 99 overall defensive ends. So he sees competition. He's like, ooh, I don't want to go there because there's competition. But what the game doesn't understand is that, yes, he has quote-unquote competition, but they're all 99s, which I'll show you later in the video just for proof. And so they're all going to get drafted. So what looks like a very competitive defensive end room is actually not competitive because 3 of them will be leaving. So I wish EA would change this, but either way. The 2 best deal breakers to go for, in my personal opinion, when you're just starting off a rebuild, is proximity to home and playing time. Those are the 2 best, in my opinion. Most schools, just pick players in your state. That prox to home never changes. It's an A. It'll always be an A. Very consistent. Same thing with playing time or PT. If you get a good player, start the good player. It's really that simple, ironically enough. The 3rd best deal breaker that you should go after is very situational, but I'm going to go ahead and include it in the video, is conference prestige. Conference prestige is oddly situational, but if you're rebuilding a small school in the ACC, the SEC, or the Big Ten, they get a free A for doing nothing. That's right. You could rebuild Vanderbilt or rebuild Wake Forest or rebuild Purdue or rebuild, I don't know, Virginia Tech, just to include ACC nonsense. They're going to get a free A for doing nothing, right? Whereas if you rebuild a school like Tulane or, Akron, they're going to have like a C or a D conference prestige, and there's not a lot of ways you could improve that. Generally, how I do it is there's like a progression. I'll go to a harder and harder conference. Each and every single year I start, excessively doing too well. But if you try to like keep your current conference and raise everything up, if you want to do it that way, how you increase your conference prestige is by increasing everyone's average star rating. So I found it's almost borderline impossible to increase a bad conference's star rating up to match the ACC, the Big Ten, or the SEC. Because again, you can make a super 5-star Giga Squad, but you need other people in your conference to also help. So generally speaking, just kick the bad players out of your conference, replace them with good players, and that'll fix that problem. But that is why I have it 3rd on my list of deal breakers you should look for. Because depending on what school you're rebuilding in what category, it's either a godsend, it's a free A+, or it's going to hinder you for the rest of the rebuild because you're in a shit conference like the MAC. The 4th and 5th best, in my opinion, deal breakers is playing style and coach prestige, and I would also classify those as mid-game deal breakers. And what I mean by that is playing style is more indicative of the playbooks you run. So if you're using a, passing playbook like, Ohio State, for example, you need a quarterback who throws the ball a lot, not, a playbook like Army's, which is a option playbook where you need your quarterback to run a lot. So playing style early on can be backbreaking because you don't have a good enough team to consistently put up the stats required to get the player. But towards the mid/end of the, end of your coach cycle, when you start to get to easy mode, as I would call it, playing style is I have an A+ for all my players. I very rarely ever lose my A+. Yeah. Same thing with coach prestige. Coach prestige is almost impossible to get good early on because your coach prestige stat is a accumulation of all 3 of your coaches. You yourself as the head coach and your coordinators. Early on, you're going to have like F to D, maybe if you're lucky C coordinators off rip, and your coach is going to be a really low overall if you're using a custom coach. So those 2 eventually become auto A's, playing style and coach prestige, eventually. But early on, it's really hard to improve those quickly. So I would just kind of not focus on that. I wouldn't really touch those players until about year 4, year 5-ish of your dynasty. Obviously, if you do really well early on, you're going to, get better coaches and do better. You'll progress faster. And if you're a little slow, if you're not progressing as fast as you think you should, there's a good chance you probably messed something up earlier, as I've mentioned in the video. So no hate. We all been there. We all done that. We all do uh-ohs. Watch my streams every day. I fuck up on a regular basis, but it's not how you mess up. It's how you learn from your mistake and improve. Words to live by. Then the final 3 deal breakers, in my opinion, are endgame deal breakers. I would not worry about these until you're basically going to the playoff and or winning a natty or fighting for a natty consistently. That being championship contender, pro potential, and brand exposure. Championship contender is exactly what it sounds like. Are you competing for a natty? Yes or no? Now, some minor cheese. Well, don't worry, guys. I got plenty of cheese in this video, so just strap in. How you can kind of cheese champ contender is by winning a bowl game, right? So if you go 7-6, the wonderful curse I always get every dynasty, and go 7-6 and win a bowl game and finish 8-6, because you won that bowl game, whatever your championship contender was will become, I think, a B or a B minus. Obviously, you losing the bowl game really sucks, but championship contender is one of those where as long as you make a bowl game and win it, it's always going to be about average, which is not good nor bad. It's just average. And obviously, if you have an A, you're competing for a conference championship, which you have a good team, or, a natty. And those players typically tend to be really good. Same thing with brand exposure. Brand exposure is almost impossible to manually fix. If your brand exposure is like a C or a D or an F, that takes years and years of winning, conference games, playoff games, bowl games. The only way you can increase brand exposure is by winning important or meaningful games where people are watching you, or if you're in a conference filled with highly competitive schools. Again, SEC, ACC, Big Ten, you get the picture. So those will get pretty much automatic A pluses towards the end of your dynasty. Early on, they're a pain in the neck. Just don't worry about it. But eventually, they'll be auto A's. And lastly, you got pro potential. Pro potential is also really... Honestly, I probably should have slapped pro potential in the situational category along with conference prestige, because how it works is you have to get somebody drafted. And the higher they get drafted, the best grade it becomes. So if you get a quarterback taken in the first round, you're going to have A+ pro potential. And that lingers for up to 4 years. Obviously, if you get like a second or third round pick quarterback, that's like, I think, a B+, and it's all proportionate, right? So you want to just get people drafted. Typically, early on, that's very hard unless you're cheesing it with a tight end position swap, which I'll address that later in the video. But by and large, most bad schools don't have good players that will go pro. Obviously, LSU, Ohio State, Oregon, Alabama, Georgia, Tennessee, they all do. But most bad schools don't. So that's why I really kind of say don't really worry about champ contender, pro potential, or brand exposure the beginning of your rebuild or towards the middle. Focus that more towards the end where things get a lot easier and more controllable. The next thing we need to talk about is Dynamic Deal Breaker. It's a brand new feature they added into CFB 26 that wasn't in CFB 25. And what Dynamic Deal Breakers are basically exactly what it sounds like. Your deal breakers will change during your rebuild, during your playthrough of your dynasty. We'll take Tremaine Sparks, easy example. He's a redshirt freshman, I believe 5-star. Are you a 4 or 5-star? You're a 4-star. Okay, so that's why. If he was a 5-star quarterback, his current deal breaker is pro potential. Because I have him sitting the bench, just collecting skill points to eventually become a 99 overall, but not right now, his deal breaker will change from pro potential to playing time. It's very annoying. It's very, very, very annoying. That is the largest reason why keeping multiple good quarterbacks on your roster is borderline impossible. But there is a way to, there's actually 2 ways you can cheese dynamic deal breakers. Number 1, doing exactly what I'm doing in the video. As you can see, I have a 99 redshirt sophomore quarterback. This kid, Tremaine Sparks, he's 5th on my depth chart. He's not going to get any play. As long as I don't upgrade him, he'll forever sit at a 77 overall collecting skill points. But his deal breaker is also not going to go up. Deal breakers are proportionate to the player's overall. Good example, as you can see, for my current quarterback, Dion Harris, a 99 overall redshirt sophomore. And just to show you his stats, this is not a fluff or filler 99. As you can see, he looks very sexy. And honestly, he could be better. right? He only has 87 speed as a pocket passing quarterback. He could absolutely hit 99 speed, but unfortunately, I kind of didn't time my skill points properly. And so what I should have done is sat him for one more year, wait until his redshirt junior year. I would have had about 330 skill points. Instead, I pulled the trigger at about 275 skill points, and that little amount of skill points that may not seem too trivial, 40, 50 skill points, was the difference between him hitting 99 everything versus him mostly hitting 99 stuff, right? 99 throw power, 99 medium, deep, shorts, 99 break sack, agility. He's a legit 99. He's going to be yoked out of his mind. But unfortunately, that's how it goes. So if you sit them on your roster like I'm doing, and you don't manually, or you keep the thing on manual, not auto, his deal breaker is going to forever sit at a B. And because I'm mass producing quarterbacks every year to the league, my pro potential will always be an A+. That's one way you can kind of cheese dynamic deal breakers, is just don't upgrade your players. The deal breaker will stay, the requirements will stay low, and then you can do that. The next thing, as you can see, don't get 5-star players. I understand it's annoying, it's frustrating, I get it. 5-star players are cool on paper, they're flashy, they have cool abilities at base. Don't do it. But yeah, how you can cheese this is just don't get 5-star players. Yes, dynamic deal breakers do exist for 3 stars and 4 stars, just like 5 stars. However, the statistical chance or the probability of your 4-star getting salty and butthurt that he's not playing, or your 3-star getting salty or butthurt that they're not playing, is a lot lower than a 5-star. A 5-star pretty much can't sit the bench. You can, but the most you could sit them for is 1 year. So keep that in mind if you're getting a 5-star, regardless of dev trait, regardless of position. You could bench them for 1 year, but they will change their deal breaker to playing time. If they're not playing, it'll be an F for you, and they will transfer out. It's very annoying, I know. Best 2 things you can cheese that is just go for 3-star, 4-star gems. I promise you, you will still find a ton of elite and superstar dev players at 3 and 4-star, and they'll be a lot less bitchy. So just for your own mental health, do that. Just a little sneak peek, by the way, for my roster. If you don't believe me how fucking yoked my lineups are every single year, let's count the 99s I have. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. No, I have 12 99s. I have 2 98s. I have a 97, and then a bunch of low 90s. Yeah, we are absolutely yoked. And I can already hear you, typing the comments. Well, Beasley, of course, your lineup's going to be full of 99 Giga Squads. Every single person you have is Star Dev or Elite. If you scroll far enough down, as you can see, I have a 92 overall junior normal tight end. He will be a 99 come next year. I will have a 92 overall junior redshirt defensive end. He will again be a 99 next year. I have a 90 overall corner. He'll hit, again, you guessed it, a 99 overall next year. You can still get 99s with normal dev. It just takes them 4 to 5 years to do it, whereas elite, good dev players takes 1 or 2 years. I promise you, the build works. If you're curious what build is allowing me to create these Giga Squads, check out episode 1, where I cover perks and what to and not buy. Okay, so let's say, Beastly, I have my prospects, I have my players, I have my 3 stars that I got uncontested year 1. By the way, if you get any resistance year 1 or 2, where you're just going after your 3 stars that's in your best pipeline and highest interest, just get rid of them, drop them off your board, go get another one, do that for, 2 years at max, get your depth, get your starters. Then years 3, year 4, you should be starting to sprinkle in some 4 stars. At this point, this is where this tip is going to be invaluable. However, this tip is really good for online leagues, offline leagues, for 3 stars, for 5 stars. It's kind of a universal tip. But Beastly, what is the tip? Here you go. Also, let me know in the comments. I love doing this in all my videos just to see the people who did and didn't watch all the way through the video. Leave a calculator emoji in the comments down below, because you're going to be doing the math better than everybody else. And in fact, you might be learning how people are doing the math better than you. Appreciate you guys. Slap like, comment, subscribe. Love you guys. So, this is the double soft sell tech. Now, in my opinion, I think this is very cheesy. I don't do this myself. But if you're in a online league, or if you're in the off season and you're tired of getting screwed by the computers and the transfer portal because you got a couple weeks to figure out a whole prospects thing, this is applicable to wherever and whenever you want. It's just I'm putting it in the video. Do with the information what you will. But as you can see, this guy's hard sell Donovan Ezekiel. Almost said Ezekiel. Wow. Donovan Ezekiel. Interesting name. I'm probably misreading that. I love having the tism. Anyways, we have 2 of his hard sells, right? We know it's playing time in the bottom right corner. The deal breaker that every recruit gets you is a guaranteed, green check mark. And we know he has already brand exposure and championship contender. So technically, we know what it is. Technically, which is this. However, let's just pretend we didn't have the deal breakers playing time. Let's say that deal breaker said one of the deal breakers we already had, like, brand exposure or championship contender. What you can do is the double soft sell cheese. Let me try and make sure I'm not going crazy. I'm not going crazy. Okay, the double soft sell cheese. So let's just pretend there's not a red X there, and we don't know. It could be one of these 2. How this cheese kind of works, and the reason why I'm going to keep calling it cheese is because in a way it was in CFB 25, then they patched it out, and I don't understand why it's still in this game, but I don't make the rules, I simply play the game. The hard sell, soft sell, the benefits, let me just cover this really quickly too in the video. Do not ever pay attention to the arrows on the right side of the screen. EA Sports said last year and this year, the influence green arrows do not mean anything. Everything you do to a recruit has a set amount of influence acquired to it. I'm going to get to the reason why that's very relevant in a moment, but just so you know, the most influence you could possibly give a recruit is hard selling. It's hard selling with good grades. The second most influential thing you can do is sending the house. Those 2 things are 40 and 50 hours. That's really expensive. And when you're at, a 1 or 3 star school, you may not have the hours to burn, to spend the resources to just throw at, the prospects. This is where the soft selling / double soft selling cheese shines. What I mean by that is I'm going to show you, right? That's the size of the bar this week for Donovan Ezekiel. There you go. Look at the bar, purple bar, very pretty. So I have 10 hours. We already know it's this. But just for example, let's say it's a 50-50 coin flip on if it's this or this. How this works, soft selling, you do not get punished for fucking up a soft sell. None. However, you do get rewarded for hitting a soft sell. So if you're keeping track, the best thing in the game is hard selling. The second best thing in the game is sending the house. The third best thing in the game that gives you influence is ironically having a good soft sell. So as you're about to see, I'm not going to cut it, make no edits, no chops. I'll get the picture. How you guys doing? Hopefully we beat UTEP. We'll probably put like 75 on their head. Maybe 80 if we're feeling juicy. Oh, we won? Okay. Did we get any awards? No awards? Darn, we didn't put 75. We put 58. Damn. We beat the hell out of them. But that happens when you're like a 40 overall advantage. Anywho, back to the game. So, look at the size of that bar. Rewind like 8 seconds in the video and do a compare and contrast of the size of the bar now versus the size of the bar it was. And that is because, like I mentioned, you don't get punished for whiffing a soft sell. So between these 10 hours and us hitting the soft sell and having 3 really good grades, it's basically the equivalent of sending the house. It's massive. Now I have perks and stuff that, are kind of making the bar a little bigger than what it should be, but the proportions don't change, right? Yeah, my bar is a little bigger because of perks, but your bar is also going to incrementally be bigger just without the perks. So there you go. It's a proportionate, fraction. You get the point though. But yeah, now that I know what the hard sell is, I can just take away the soft sell that didn't work and just slap on the hard sell. And he will be mine next week. And again, this is very useful in the transfer portal where you only have a select number of weeks to even scout somebody, which most of the time in the transfer portal, you're not going to get all 3 arrows. So huge, huge, huge feature. Huge. So I just gave you the tip about double soft selling. The next tip I'm going to give you is you could argue a little more cheesy, but I'm going to show you because, again, I want you guys to have all the resources at your hands because your league mate might know this information you're learning now if you're in an online dynasty, and they could be abusing you with it. So it's better to learn how people are abusing you. That way you can properly handle the situation versus just getting your brain clocked in repeatedly over and over by having people who do way too well. What are you talking about, Beastly? Here you go. So just so you're aware, just so you can, visualize this, for Frederick Kendricks, great name, we have 2 of his arrows, and it's conference prestige, which we already have that. So luckily we're still missing that 3rd arrow. But what if I told you there's a way of, with damn near almost 100% certainty, you could have a calculator tell you what his hard sell is? Well, that's a thing. So on the same website I showed you that has the pipeline tracker, there's also a section under the tools. It is a recruiting engine calculator. Now, you don't have to do this. I don't do this. I find this particularly unfun. However, if you are doing an online dynasty and you notice that people are getting 5-star, prospects to commit by week 2 or week 3, and they're getting the hard sell way too early on, there's a good chance they're either doing the double soft sell cheese or they're doing this calculator that will tell you the hard sell. And how this calculator works, it's exactly what it looks like. So basically on the right hand side, you have the in-season or the regular recruiting, the transfer portal section, you have the star rating, 5-star, 4-star, 3. All you do is you come over here and you type in the yeses, which are the green check marks, or the no's, which are the red X's. You fill the board in. And if you have enough information, like it says right here, this player with the information I just, plugged into the calculator with 100% certainty says it is the status seeker. So now I can just go in, click that exact same thing, and voila, I'm now hard selling. And the reason why I said this can be game breaking is because not every player has the same stuff. Different star ratings for different players have different criteria. So you might be able to, with a 100% certainty, get a hard sell strictly off of no's by the time you're in that top 5. And again, if you're hitting that hard sell by week 2, week 3, week 4, you're getting that recruit. Like that, it's just a fact. So you can, it's supposed to be RNG with like the check marks and the X's, how you do or don't get them. But this calculator is like, nope, give me your information. Obviously, the more information you stick into the calculator, the more accurate it's going to be. And there's a little, thingy at the bottom of the screen saying that they've basically made this calculator out of approximately 2,500, give or take, players' data. So, expect a margin of error. This is not going to be 100% accurate, but I've used it 15 or 16 times and it's yet to be wrong. I don't do it. I don't use it. I think it's cheesy. But again, if you're in an online dynasty, there's a good chance someone's using this calculator. If you notice by week 2 or week 3, they're just getting like 4 or 5 stars and you're like, how are you doing this? It's because he's getting into the top 5 as quick as possible with the double soft sell strat to then figure it out, or he's just using the calculator and cheating the fuck out of it. But if you're in a solo one like I'm doing, I'm not gonna cheese the computer. I'm more OP enough to do it myself. So, but a tool, again, same website, same section, it's there if you want it. Lastly, to wrap up this probably 15-hour long video, because you guys know I love the yap, what do the green gems mean next to a prospect? So there was this belief in College Football 25, again, misinformation. I'm not going to castrate and crucify people for being wrong, but they were actively sending out disinformation, which kind of low-key bugs me. Anyways, these green gems in CFP 25 were believed to increase the star rating of your player. So if you found a 3-star gem, they would be more of a 4-star. If you found a 4-star gem, they're more of a 5-star. That's not how that works. People are still bringing that misinformation. They are still bringing that BS into this game. That's not how it works. These green gems is the game's way of saying, hey, this person has a guaranteed dev trait. Whether it's impact, whether it's star, whether it's elite, results may vary. But it's more or less saying, hey, they have a dev trait. Pay attention to me. Furthermore, what you can do is you can, within a rational, reasonable amount, tell what the dev trait of the prospect is going to be based off the stats associated with it. Good example. If you look at Frederick Kendricks, and I'll sim to the very end after I recruit him and we can do a compare and contrast of like his dev trait. But I don't believe Frederick Kendricks in this 5-star is impact dev for 2 reasons. He's a dual threat quarterback, which means he's supposed to be fast. But he has 93 speed. That is one of the fastest quarterbacks I have ever seen generate in natural sim. His 93 speed is what's considered to be or classified as an outlier stat. Don't think because, oh, he's an athlete, it has to be speed. No. You can have players that are, generationally statted at all different positions, at all different platforms. This is not the best example I can give you. Unfortunately, you got to just take my word for it. The quarterback I had before I made him a 99 this season, he was a generationally elite quarterback, and his base throw power was 96. That is really fucking high. That was one of the highest base throw powers I have ever seen. I only upgraded his throwing power once to go from 96 to 99. He was yoked. However, though, I don't have that on camera, so you're going to have to just take my word for it. The best second example I can give you of a player who I actively have on my team is this 80 overall right guard, AJ Stevens, who's also elite dev, 5-star. And his generationally high talent or stats, I would have to reckon would be the high 80s off-rip pass blocking. Again, this is with 0 upgrades. So this is kind of like what I'm trying to show you is that you don't have to have a little gem next to their name to tell you, hey, buddy, there is something, special here. You can just look at their stats and see it, right? Like this guy, he clearly with speed, he's so freaking fast. He has 93 speed. That's so, incredibly fast. But just to give you an example, because I actually, found one. Where is he? Where is he? So this is another example of the most obvious elite dev prospect I've ever seen. David Easy, again, what the fuck are up? EA, can you give me easy names to pronounce in the video? But as you can see, he's a 5-star safety, but look at his speed. He has 97 base speed. That is the highest speed I have ever seen from a safety. And as you can see, he doesn't have a green gem. So there you go. That's kind of the point I'm making is, yes, you want to find the people like Jamie Bolin, for example. He's a gem. He's going to be impact and probably superstar, if not elite, because I think his high stat is his speed. 85 speed is kind of high. Now, if it was like 88, I would be a lot more confident there, but that's still very high speed. And even 86 finesse move is very high for a guy off rip. But as much as it is, useful to go look at, is there a green gem? Yes or no. Do not be surprised in the slightest if you recruit a 4-star or a 5-star that did not have a gem next to their name and their elite dev. Another example I can give you is this cornerback. I think he's impact. I think he's normal dev or impact because even though he's really fast, like that safety, you would assume this corner's fast, like that safety is fast. Therefore, this corner's elite dev. No. The reason why is his zone coverage and man coverage is not that good. So I think he's just a really juiced normal dev or impact dev corner, whereas this safety, wherever he went, this dude is, aside from having 97 speed, which is flipping insane, he has 83 zone. This man has better zone coverage than some of the 5-star corners I'm recruiting. Like, this dude, he has gold robber as well. So this guy is just clear green flags, recruit me. There you go. Furthermore, another thing that a lot of people are still getting wrong, sadly, in the big 2025, red gems. They're a bust, but red gems do not touch anymore, right? This is not a 5-star player who's actually a 4-star, no. What the busted gems mean is that they either have impact dev or normal dev. And as you've seen from me upgrading my roster and me showing you with the right perks, you can turn normal dev players into 99s. It's very possible. Yeah, it takes a little longer, it's a little harder, but you can do it. It's possible. It's there. So if you're in like a pinch, right? Like this tight end, for example, let's say I had no tight ends on my team and I really needed a tight end. This guy has 86 speed. He has decent route running. He has decent catching. Yeah, he's probably normal dev. Yeah, or if I'm lucky, impact dev, which is not good. I would prefer elite or superstar, but he's a 5-star. He's going to be a higher base overall. Mine as well. So just don't think, oh my God, it's a bust equal, get off my board. No, look at their stats. Think about how good or bad they are, and go from there. Last thing I guess I can cover in this video from the sheer amount of information I've unleashed for you guys. Do apologize for how long this video is, but there's a lot of info to cover. So treat it like a podcast. Just slap it in the background. Let me yap while you do your absolute mundane IRL, boring stuff, driving, dishes, chores, walking, etc., etc. What does the star rating mean? I probably should have covered this a lot earlier in the video, but plain and simple, the rank a prospect means nothing. I'm going to repeat myself. The national rank a prospect has means nothing. The stats of a prospect are determined by the rating or the 5-star rating they are, not their ranking. Ranking is irrelevant. Rating is where it matters. 5 stars are generally somewhere between ballparking it a 77, 78 overall to about an 82 overall. They're in that range. So, by and large, they're somewhere around an 80 overall. 4 stars are typically within about a 70 to 76, 77 overall, again, in that range. 3 stars are between like 65 and 70 overalls. But that's all 3 stars. So, that doesn't matter if you're the 500th ranked 3-star. As you can see, this wide receiver, Earl Cobbs, he's ranked 453rd in the class. He's a 3-star, which means he's generally going to be the same overall as Curtis Brooks over here, who is ranked 1000th in the class. 3 stars have a range. Don't think about the ratings equal or the star rating equal to dev trait either. I have found elite dev and superstar dev 2s and 3 stars. I have found 5-star normal dev players. Star rating is strictly base overall and abilities. If you want a high base overall and good base abilities, shoot for 5 stars. If you're more of a developmental person like I am, just shoot for a dev trait, whether it's a 3-star, 4-star, or 5 stars. There you go. Another thing I may or may not have mentioned in this very long video, aside from having a good dev trait, the green gem is also equivalent to skill caps. So just to give you an idea what I'm referring to with skill caps. Typically, the better the dev trait, yes, they do develop, and yes, they are better overall, but they also don't possess skill caps. That's why my quarterback, such as Deion Harris, that I showed you earlier on, he basically doesn't have a skill cap, right? He's uncapped on health, quickness, elusiveness, and accuracy. He has 1 skill cap in power and 2 in IQ. He has 3 total skill caps on his person. Why is that? He's an elite dev. So generally speaking, normal dev players are going to have the most skill caps, and elite dev players most of the time are going to have borderline no skill caps. Which again goes for another reason why you want those players. You want the good ones. You want all of those who can make an impact for your roster to be good. There you go. Another thing I figured I should include in this video is, aside from getting, again, you spend the first couple years getting 3 stars, then you eventually move on to 4 stars and 5 stars. Another really good tip I can always give you is, don't be afraid. Always go check for 5 stars and 4 stars that don't have a home, is what me and my friend normally. Shout out Miko, my goat. Which, by the way, Miko is the guy who showed me the website that I showed you guys and showed me the double soft sell tip. Miko will be somewhere in the description. I'll make sure to pin his comment. So go show my boy Miko some love. As you can see, I have it filtered by just 5 stars. And if you look, we have a 5-star who's not in his top 5 yet. We have a 5-star who's barely in his top 8. We have a 5-star who's not even in his top 8. We have a 5-star who's in his top 5, which I'm in his top 5, but, by and large, most people can't go after him. We have another 5-star that's not in his even top 8 yet. And then we have another 5-star, which, you guessed it, is not even, or is just barely in his top 8. So that's like, what, 1? I'm going to count that one. 1, 2. Not going to count that. 3, 4. I won't even count that. There's 4 5-stars, and we're in week 6, by the way. So don't get it. You can always go check to see if there are 5 stars or even 4 stars, right? As you're going to see, there's going to be like hundreds of 4 stars that don't have a home yet. And I'm in week 6. You could do this throughout the entire year. In week 10, week 12, after you got your board filled, you got your players, you got your gems, just go check. I promise you, there is no harm in checking. There are hundreds of 4 stars every single cycle. I assure you, there's always 5 stars that no one goes after, that no one pursues you. But yes, I promise you, whether it's week 6 or week 10, there's always, go check to see if there's 5 stars with no homes. If there are, go get them. They're free. No competition. Same thing with 4 stars. Yeah, you could scout them to see if they're gems or bust, but generally it doesn't matter. A free 4-star or a free 5-star for most programs in most situations is just free. So go ahead and enjoy your free stuff. So we're in week 8. I've already gotten about half those people off my board. And as you can see, I got a lot of hours to go play with. So what I just did, just to show you guys real quick, go to your prospect list, or at least this is what I do. Go to your prospect list, go to 4 stars, max 4-star, min 4-star, and just filter. And then just go down the list, grab them, scout them, they're gems, go get them. If not, I'm a sim guy. Obviously, go after players who fit your playing style if you do play the games. But just so you're aware, in simulation, abilities don't matter. None of this stuff matters. Even the specific stats don't matter. It's just strictly overall in playbook. So for me, I'm going after the best players with the best stats. But for you, obviously, do what you want to, but, just so you're aware, doesn't matter if your quarterback has, a billion platinum abilities or crazy high stats. If your quarterback is not good and, high overall wise, he will not do well in sim. So just so you're aware, doesn't matter if he's an athlete, pocket passer. I mean, hell, I have an 87 speed pocket passer, as you guys saw. So don't feel like you're restricted to just going, I have to go after man-to-man corners, or I have to go after run stuffing defensive linemen, or I have to go against, get well-rounded linemen. You really don't. As long as they have a good dev trait, as long as, they have good stats, they're going to develop. I assure you, don't stress. In my next video, I'm going to go into far more detail, because I could be wrong, but I think my next video is going to be about coordinators and playbooks, and then my 4th and final video is going to be how to upgrading your players to get those 99 overall, Giga Squads. But yeah, just small rant towards the end of the video, why not? So, just so you guys can see how fruitful our recruiting cycle was or wasn't, this 5-star no gem tackle, just to, I'd love to, prove my point, no flex, but here you go. This right tackle that had no gem next to his name, and as you can see, doesn't look very impressive, actually ends up being an elite dev prospect. And after further looking at what this guy that doesn't look very good, his incredibly high stat, that I don't know how I didn't notice this, he's a well-rounded lineman. So typically 4-star well-rounded linemen have like high 70s, if not in about an 80. As you can see, this guy has 84 pass block power, 83 pass block finesse, 82 impact. His was high, or not really high, but low 80s, which I don't know how I didn't notice that the first time, but there you go. Just to give you another example, remember that 93 speed quarterback I told you that's the fastest quarterback I have ever seen? Well, it turns out he is in fact generational, because he's an elite dev prospect. Notice how both of them are elite devs, but only one of them has a gem. Speaking of which, going through the class, this 4-star tackle I found super late, impact, oh well, boohoo. But going back to the point I was saying, do you see how on this tackle, he has, high 70s, if not an 80? I don't know how I missed that 5-star right tackle having low 80s, but yeah, his was like 4 to 5 points higher in damn near every stat. So I don't know how I missed it, but I did. Turns out this 96 speed corner I was wrong about. His giveaway speed is, his stat giveaway, the stat that absolutely exposed him being an elite dev prospect, is, as you guessed, 96 speed and 96 excel. Another funny thing I found is this safety that has 97 speed. Turns out he's just a star, but I will take it. I think he's probably the best safety I've ever seen. So wow, he's going to be insane. But, let's go count all the elite dev prospects I did end up recruiting, right? 1, 2, 3, 4. Where is it? 5, 6, 7. So I had 7 elite dev prospects out of 17. That's what? 8.5? So that's almost half. That was like 40 something % of my players have either elite dev. And if you include star dev, it's almost all of them. I have a couple impacts, but no normal dev. So there you go. Kind of ironic that, my tips kind of got proven valid. Just because there's no gem does not mean they are not elite dev. You can look for their stats. If they have higher than average or absurdly high stats with no gem, they still can be good. And of course, if they're a bust, they can still be, impact dev, which, you want elite and superstar, but it is what it is. So yeah, appreciate you guys. Thank you for taking time out your day to watch my really long ass video, and let's roll the outro and the people who are on the Wall of Fame, shall we? As always, I hope you have a wonderful morning, evening, night, afternoon, or day, depending on whatever time you watch my content in the future. Like, comment, and subscribe on YouTube. Drop me a follow or sub on Twitch. I'd greatly appreciate it. And if you can, become a member. You get early access to all of my videos a day or two early in advance, and you get extra perks in the Discord, along with being able to directly impact what streams, what videos, and what content I make in the future. So please join the Discord, become a member. I'd greatly appreciate it. As always, I'll see you guys when I see you. Huge shouts to every one of you guys. Much love. Appreciate you guys in the ever-growing fam. Deuces.